is the Red Alert. Civil defense information will be broadcast at 6:40.
West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hello.
Y2K, how can we prepare?
Stop a few of their machines and radios. Throw them into darkness for a few hours.
We are fighting for our lives. My family must survive.
Over 5 years, 1,000 gallons of gas, air filtration, water filtration.
Coming at you from the frozen tundra that is East Central Alberta, Canada, streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Telegram, Rumble, and Odyssey. Welcome back to the workshop where we create community, find freedom, promote preparedness, and share success. I am Toolman Tim. Today's January 14th, 2023, and this is episode 236 of the Workshop Podcast. So how is everyone? We have got a great guest coming tonight. I met the dude in North Carolina at Prepper Camp in September. So without further ado, let's bring Jester on. Hey, man, how are you?
I'm doing great, Tim. Thanks for asking me to come on. I'm happy to be here.
Hey, no, had to return the favor. So for those who don't know, I was like 100% impressed with your setup at Prepper Camp. It was so fucking cool, man. Like why don't you explain it? Tell me how that came about. Actually, let's back up a little. Tell me who the hell Jester is first, and then we'll go into that.
Okay, on the spot now. So Jester is a podcaster first, survivalist, prepper, conservative gentleman in the state of North Carolina. I host its Doomsday podcast, survival prepping, a little bit of conspiracy, a lot of conspiracy, nice. And occasional government topics, things like that. I got into podcasting back in 2019. I used to work in law enforcement, and I would be in my vehicle a lot, and I'd be very bored, and I'd have nothing to do. And I worked a lot of details that required me to sit on my ass all day long. I then discovered podcasts, and I was like, oh, my God, these are so cool. I said, I would love to do one of these. And I was like, I don't really have anything to talk about. I was like, well, I like to talk about prepper-related stuff till I'm blue in the face, so I bet I could do this as a podcast. How we ended up at Prepper Camp last year was by total happenstance. There's a friend of a friend caught wind of the show and relayed a message back through a friend of a friend, hey, to my wife, hey, has your husband ever heard of Prepper Camp? And she says, no, I don't think so. She was putting pressure on me for a couple years to get out there. And I said to myself, well, I'm not going to go out there unless I'm going to get a booth there. I just didn't find it to be worth it just to show up like empty-handed. So I was like, you know what? We're going to get equipment. We're going to get everything together. And we're going to do the show live from Prepper Camp. And I was like, this is going to be awesome. Internet was horrible. It didn't work out as good as I wanted it to. But it was such a cool experience because I got to meet a lot of good people. I got to meet you, Tim, and one of the coolest things was interacting with fans of the show, like going there and walking through and having people come into the booth. They said, oh my God, Jester, you're here. I listen to the show all the time. It's so cool. I didn't know you guys are going to be here. That was the coolest experience, was being recognized at the event. I was like, whoa, people actually listen to what we're saying. This is so cool. So that's how that ended up.
So all right. You were you had months of experience at mobile podcasting before Prepper Camp, right?
Yes, many zero of months.
Which makes it all the more damn impressive. How many, did you have a ton of tech gremlins to deal with? I mean, I know the internet was bad, whatever, but did you do a lot of testing? Because it was a friggin' incredible setup.
No. It was, I have this unique ability to wing it, and wing it I did, and it worked out great.
It was awesome. I mean, you couldn't, for everybody who wants to know, what do they call it? Vendor alley or whatever, where we were set up, something like that. Yeah, so
something like that.
You got to walk by the smoke shop where they have all the smoked meat and everything. And it was awesome, but you can't walk by without seeing Jester there. And he had it, live kind of broadcasting over the speakers. It was awesome, but so going back a little ways, 2019, you said you discovered podcasting. Who was your gateway drug into podcasting?
As much as I hate to admit it now, so there was a brief show that was out, and I don't know if they're still out or not, but they were called Crime Town. Okay. They did a little bit of like the stuff into Mayor Kwame Kilpatrick in New York, things like, or not New York, Detroit, things like that. And then they kind of fell off the radar. I don't know what happened. Shortly thereafter, got into Last Podcast on the Left and was hooked. From then on, got into Crime Junkies and then got into Morbid. And Morbid is pretty much where I landed. If I'm listening to another show outside of mine, it's probably going to be Morbid. But whenever I really, really want the nitty-gritty facts of anything true crime related, there's a podcast called Necronomipod. And if they're doing a conspiracy, if they're doing something true crime, these guys are on point and they dig so deep for facts. And you're going to hear things on their show about topics that you won't hear on anybody else's because their research is so extensive. So those are my two new go-tos are Morbid and Necronomipod. And I listen to them more than I listen to myself. I barely listen to my own show anymore.
I love that. Necronomipod?
Necronomipod. Yes.
Evil Dead a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So did you ever listen to True Crime Garage?
Yes, I have listened to True Crime Garage. I have listened to those guys. Good show. No complaints. I just kind of went in a different direction. But no, great show. Those guys do put their time and they do put their work in. Absolutely. So
let's slide back even just a little bit further because we got a tradition here in the workshop. I forgot to ask you, what are you drinking tonight?
Oh, because I'm at the studio and I got to drive. I'm drinking a Celsius peach vibe and obviously water. Always got water.
I've got my old fashioned with me tonight, so we're all set. So go back, high school or previous, and where'd you start out? You don't have to get into specifics where you grew up, but we always love to ask what your first job was, first thing that made you some cash.
So my father had his own plumbing company. He had his own plumbing company for 40 years. Whenever I was little, we couldn't really track down babysitters. So I ended up going on a lot of jobs with him at a very young age. And my dad, in order to sweeten the deal for me not to be bored, would give me little jobs to do as I was there as a child, and he would pay me accordingly. And it was always little stuff. I'd help clean copper fittings or help, bring things in from the truck, this, that, the other. And I kept this job up until I was about 19 years old. And then went and started working in retail. The older I got, the less I wanted to do the work, but it definitely gave me a pretty good background as far as plumbing knowledge goes. I know how to do a lot of stuff now.
So you can kind of handle it if you spring a leak on a Sunday afternoon, you can take care of it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We did pretty much all general repair work. We did very little new install work. So I learned how to do a lot of stuff as far as, replacing a toilet, replacing a water heater, various different things, learned how to do a lot of stuff.
So then what'd you do in retail?
Got my first job working at an auto parts store. I don't want to say which one, but it was a tragedy. I can't say that it was that it was a horrible job, but for the amount of knowledge you had to know and the amount of training you had to keep going through for the pay just was not worth it.
I get it. I finished, I got a 4-year university degree and went straight to working at Dairy Queen. So I feel you. No worries.
Wow.
So how'd you end up in law enforcement then?
So got out of the automotive kind of scene, got into welding, did that for a long time, had my own business doing welding work, ran my own company for 5 years. And then eventually I had enough and I said, I got to do something different. And what I did was I decided to get in with the local sheriff's office, started doing stuff with them, became a specialist, went on to do a few more things. And I ended up landing in some really weird areas of law enforcement, but I really fell in love with it. I liked what I was doing for the most part. I mean, obviously you're going to get details that suck and you're going to have to do some things you don't like, but I really, really, really liked it. Where I was, whenever I relocated to where I am now, it was horrible. And I had to get out of it. I did. I walked away from it. The hell I was going through with it and the lack of income that was coming in from it was horrible. And I ended up going back into the welding industry because I could make more in the welding industry than I could in law enforcement here. As to where I was at before, I made more in law enforcement than I did working for a company welding. So it's very interesting how that works, how there's that geographical transition in income.
I had a guy on about a year ago, and he was a first responder, EMT, and worked like a bugger and made $14 an hour. I was blown away. Like I couldn't. You can make more than that flipping burgers a day in W here. Like that oh wow. That's a sin.
It's funny you bring that up. My prep of 2023 is I enrolled in EMT classes, and I am actively going to a community college right now to get my EMT certifications. It's not for a job. It's just for a doomsday prep. Yeah. I just want that knowledge and skill set.
I have looked at that a bunch of times. I really have, like the medical first responder training and that sort of thing. And how's that? Have you started yet?
Yeah, I've started. Yeah.
How do you like it?
For me, it's really hard to get the terminology down. This is a whole new skill set for me. I know nothing about. In law enforcement, I had a lot of medical training, but just enough to be dangerous. Not enough to actually save someone's life, I don't feel. So as we're in these classes and we're going through the terminology, different parts of the body and different things, it's like they're speaking Japanese. I don't understand this terminology. That's got to be the biggest transition and the biggest barrier right now, is trying to get on board with the terminology.
That's cool. I respect you for doing it. I have looked at it long and hard, and every time I have somebody on here do you remember, I don't know if you saw a couple of booths up from you, there was Jake Drummond from Drummond Emergency Service, heavy set guy selling medical supplies. I had him on here, and man, he just blew me away with his common sense, down to earth kind of approach to like off-grid medical. And it was, oh yeah. So I dig it. That's cool. So, the entrepreneurial spirit runs in the family. Then you had a dad who had a business, and then you had a welding business, mm-hmm. and now you're starting another business. So where does that come from?
I've always been one of these people that don't buy into the hype of making other people rich, putting money in other people's pockets, and basically, working yourself to death for somebody else. I screwed my back up years ago in the welding industry, putting for 15 hours, $15 an hour, I gave up my back. Right. And for every young listener that's out there right now, if you're getting into a labor intensive job, let me give you a friendly piece of advice. There is no hourly rate or no salary that is worth risking injury. I've got permanent damage to my back. It's always going to be there. I have good days. I have bad days. And I keep thinking to myself, I did this for pennies. And I look back now thinking that money I made for these injuries is long gone. And I have to keep making money now. If you have these employers that come to you and say, hey, man up, just do it, this, that, the other, tell them no. Because one day you might be stuck on the couch collecting disability while their pockets are fat and lined and they're nice and happy. So just remember that. I'm 100% serious. Do not give yourself up cheap.
You are right. And when you're working for yourself, it's so much easier to make more money too. You get to set your hourly work. I mean, it's hard. Don't get me wrong. You got to work your ass off, but at least what you make, you're bringing home, right?
Yeah. I mean, and then, about 30% is going back to the government, but there's ways around that.
Well, that's what I've heard it said many times. When you're an entrepreneur, you make money and then pay taxes on it. When you're working for somebody else, you pay taxes and then get to bring some money home with you. Mm-hmm. So so were you, are you self-employed now?
So right now, my wife and I, we have a restaurant. That's our primary income right now. When I met her, she was actually my waitress. I asked her out. She said yes. She had no idea what she was getting into. But so she's been in and out of the restaurant scene for a while, along with being a hairstylist. And, she went to cosmetology school, stuff like that. But so she was really inclined to the restaurant aspect and running a restaurant. So we have a pretty successful little restaurant in our area that's doing really well. Inflation has definitely made things tight lately. But that right now is our primary income, and she's got another business she's looking to open up, and then I've got a few businesses I'm working on getting up and running on the side with a whole new venture that I might be getting myself really deep into here. So there's a lot going on.
I always say entrepreneurship's like Lay's potato chips. You can't just have one. because I don't know. If you're anything like me, I'm always. It's not that I leave the other one behind. I keep doing it, but I'm always like, let's get on to the bigger and better thing. That's half the excitement, man. Is starting something new, you know?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So, okay, there was this crazy thing that happened in March of 2020 that really affected things like the restaurant business. How did you guys fare through that?
So we actually opened up after that happened. So we didn't know how this was going to fare. The one saving grace, the one thing that made it all worthwhile for us is the restaurant has a drive-through window. So if they do these shutdowns, if people can't go anywhere, guess what? If you're going to keep McDonald's open because they have a drive-through, we could stay open. So
nice.
that was the saving grace. If they did another shutdown, we could stay open because we fit all the parameters to stay open. Thankfully, another shutdown didn't happen. And in the beginning, everybody was really weary because there was all these restrictions, the distancing and everything else. Here was the thing, though. In our area, even though, they were doing the every other booth or every other table, everybody had to be separated out. In our area, there was nobody enforcing this. Nice. So we put on the tables, reserved because of this blah, blah, blah. And people were like, we don't care. We're sick of waiting in line. We're sick of waiting outside. We don't care about the restrictions anymore. We're going to do what we want to do. Sure, fine. And there's nobody to enforce it. So who cares?
Nice. I had a buddy of mine whose restaurant got shut down because he flaunted the restrictions and it sucked. It was, it's a different world up here, right? So proud of you. We all did what we could. But Jaggy says the plexiglass business must have made a mint during the lockdown.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's what we did, too. I told my wife, we opened a daycare right at the height of COVID. And I said, if we can make a go at it during friggin' lockdowns and a worldwide pandemic, I think we can always make a go at it. So, yeah, I respect you for that, man. So let's go back to prepping. So you said you've always been into that. Everybody has something that makes their eyes light up or, that they can talk about for 6 hours with no preparation.
Right.
So how did that come about?
Okay, so I was kind of a prepper my whole life without knowing what a prepper was. So I grew up on a crappy little horse ranch up north, and everything was kind of in an off-grid setup. Like we had a well, we had a septic, we had a cistern with rain collection, we had a wood burner for heat in our home. Parents did gardening, things like this. So we had this kind of old mentality. Primary heat source for the house was a wood burning stove, and I watched my father procrastinate a lot, all the time. And I mean, the window air conditioners wouldn't go in the windows until it was August, and it's been 90 degrees for a month, right? He refused to split firewood until it was about 40 degrees inside the house. Okay.
Oh no.
So,
okay.
So everything was always like this last minute detail. There was never any preparation for anything, and it drove me absolutely nuts. So it could be 50 degrees in the house, and I'm like, Dad, are we going to get a fire going? Put on a sweater, you'll be fine, type mentality. When are we going to split firewood? When we need it, type mentality. So I started taking it upon myself to do things preemptively. Get the firewood going before fall got there, get some logs cut up, get some things split, start stacking it, things like this. So we would be better prepared. And I guess because of my parents, they kind of lived in this little bit of a bubble where nothing could go wrong. And then when something did go wrong, it's what the heck do we do? That got me in the mentality of I need to be prepared for things when they're happening. A good example of this is one year we got hit with a wicked ice storm. Power was out for a week or two. I can't remember how many days exactly. We had no backup system for getting water. We had no backup generator. We had nothing. The only thing we had was our wood burning stove for heat. And our only way to get water was to actually take a 5-gallon bucket and dip it out of the cistern. So our days were comprised of, getting buckets of water out of the cistern, heating them on the wood stove, taking sponge baths and doing all these things. And I can't help but think like, man, a simple generator would have made our lives so much easier, maybe some kind of a hand-operated pump to get that water out of that cistern would have made life easier. Having a few more stock pots laying around to keep water heated up would have been better. Like, there's just so many little things I saw we could do to make this better. Along with this being in the Boy Scouts of America for many years and doing the camping thing and doing different things like this, I absolutely love the Scouts. My son's in Scouts now. Absolutely love it. And then I had somebody, and at this time, I didn't know this was anything prepper related or survivalist related. I had no idea. It was in 2012. I had somebody come to me and say, dude, things are going to break bad. You have to look at the numbers I'm looking at. And I'm like, okay. And he's telling me all these things. And I was like, you know what? You might be onto something. Maybe I'll start stocking up on some ammo and different things, and just in case things break bad. But I was a hunter for years, and I was always a gun nut, so I had all that stuff, most of that stuff already, you know. Then what ended up happening was whenever I got into law enforcement, first position in law enforcement was a property and evidence specialist. In that job, you have to look at a lot of evidence, and in that evidence, you start seeing how much stuff is actually covered up within your community and how horrible people can be to one another, especially in higher densely populated areas. So it was at this point I said, okay, I'm going full into this prepping now, because I could see how nasty humanity can be to one another. Biggest thing that scares me in any kind of shit hits the fan scenario is my fellow man, is societal collapse and what people are willing to do to one another. And you wouldn't believe how much stuff is covered up and not put out there in the local papers or on the internet. There's a lot of horrible things. Human beings are horrible. And it really got me thinking, if things broke bad, I want to make sure my family's protected. And it got me into the prepping thing. And then the next thing you know, I'm meeting more preppers, and we're talking about this stuff 24/7. And I said, you know, we have the potential to help a lot of people if we start a podcast doing this. And I love the podcast world, so let's go for it.
So were you a prepper when you've been a prepper kind of your whole life, but when you met that the beautiful waitress that you asked out, was what did she think of the whole prepping thing?
So she still thinks I'm nuts. To an extent, she thinks I'm crazy. She is definitely a lot more on board now than what she was. After 2020 hit and we saw shortages on things, this, that, the other, and the shutdowns came and the lockdowns happened, it was like, I told her, sweetheart, we're good. We really don't have anything to worry about. We're going to be just fine. We don't have to leave. We don't have to go anywhere. We're going to be fine. And I think there was a sense of comfort in that. And now it's like, she tells me, Jester, you're buying too much stuff. You're going a little bit too crazy. Try to keep it under wraps. We're running out of places to put shit. So she's definitely not giving me as much hell now for it as she used to.
I get it. We've always been, we started out on the underside of poverty when we were first married. So we prepped out of necessity, but my wife still bugs me, we joke, but it was always the zombie apocalypse and, that kind of thing. Right. But yeah, she comes on my prepping podcast with me all the time. So she loves me. She's on board too, but I get it. I think it's our wives' jobs to bust our balls a little bit. Right.
So I watch your videos, man. I'm just kind of curious how your wife lets you buy so many tools. How there has to be so many arguments. I'm just thinking, this guy just went on a $2,000 shopping spree at Harbor Freight. How has his wife not killed him yet?
Well, okay. So I don't know. The deal is, well, for the most part, most of what I end up buying on my channel pays for itself in ad revenue. So it doesn't mean, not everything, of course, but my generator videos have done so well that they balance out a lot of what I already have, Plus I also run a handyman business, so they're a tax write-off.
Okay.
Plus my wife also has hobbies that she enjoys. So we balance things out a little bit, but 100% it was her idea to go to the States and travel and speak at the events. 100% she said, bring a bunch of shit home that you can't get in Canada and make videos about it. So she loves me. We keep each other in check a bit, but we have our hobbies. So yeah, but yeah, that's the other end of it is, the ad revenue from YouTube pays for eventually within the year pays for most of my tool purchases. So that helps quite a bit.
Right. I mean, it's good though that that's being compensated. A lot of people and a lot of content creators, man, they go for broke and they end up broke.
Absolutely. When I started, I said we first decided we were going to invest every dollar we made from content back into the content for a while. And so that's helped. And now what we're making from it is paying for the land we bought in Tennessee. So it's, my community knows full well that this is a business, and I give a shit ton of value, and they're willing to support me with the Patch of the Month Club or watching the videos or sharing. I'm a walking entrepreneur too. So I dig it. It is what it is, right?
Yeah. Very, very cool, man. I'm happy things are going well for you.
I love it. I couldn't be any happier. I'm not getting any younger. So the handyman thing, I love it. But I've been moving more and more toward property management and that sort of thing, which is easier on the body and, a little more flexible in time, which gives me way more time to do the content thing. So.
And that's absolutely awesome. I wish my full-time job could be just doing content. I know that's like a pipe dream, but it would be really cool if I could sit behind a mic all day and talk to people and just put out content. If the show is doing that well, man, I'd love it.
I want to tell you, it's not a fucking pipe dream. I want you to remember that because you can do it. I promise you can fucking do it. And I tell everybody that, but you can if you really want to. And anyway, it's just a matter of finding enough outlets and enough avenues of income, a bunch of them together. But I'll do anything I can to help you because it's doable. Is it easy? Fuck no, it's not easy. Next month, it'll be 3 years since I started my content creation journey. So you just got to find your spots and anyway, it's doable. And I believe in you. You got a thing,
Right. So it's funny you mentioned that. So we just hit 3 years on New Year's from our first show being launched. So we've actually been doing the show for 3 years now. That's how long it's been. Our first episode came out January 1st of 2020, and we just cracked the 3-year mark.
So talk about your content creation journey, because if I remember when we chatted at Prepper Camp, you originally started out with a partner or a co-host or something, did you? Or do you still?
When I first started out, I had 3 other hosts that did the show with me. We had a gentleman I used to work in law enforcement with, a buddy of mine that was a good friend of mine, and actually one of my neighbors who was this awesome older woman that was like the prepper extraordinaire, knew everything about everything. She was badass. And everybody kind of started going their own separate way with things. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to keep pressuring everybody to do this with me. So now I have 2 co-hosts. I have a gentleman named Al. He goes by Big Daddy Prep Online. He does our shows that get uploaded, all our pre-recorded shows. He does those with me. And then there's another gentleman by the name of Jake Dials. He does all of our live shows with me. So I currently have 2 co-hosts. Every once in a while, I might do something separate. I just started a new project with a gentleman from Scotland. His name is Bob. He goes by Ba Ramu Online.
Nice.
And so we came to kind of a conclusion that there's a lot of myths between the UK and the US as far as what's actually being released in the media. So now him and I have compiled together on its Doomsday podcast and on his show, the Ba Ramu podcast. Same show. We're just releasing it on both platforms.
Beautiful. Where
we kind of are cross-pollinating each other's shows and bridging the gap with what they're not putting out there in the mainstream media. For example, what could be in the water in the UK versus what could be in the water in the US, and what restrictions we're having and what restrictions they're having. Because the media for them is only briefly touching on American issues, and they happen to be American issues about how we're arguing about which bathroom to go in. Sure. And a lot of goofy things regarding the news is what they're doing. So we found this to be a way to get a little bit more in depth. YouTube doesn't like it. They've taken down our first episode. They don't like it at all. So, but it's still up on other platforms. But that's like a new project we got going on. So I keep trying to push the envelope more and more on different topics, but again, surrounding the Doomsday kind of atmosphere.
That's cool. So Jaggy's in here. His name's Jaggy Thistle. He's a buddy of mine. He's from Scotland. So it's Jaggy, what time is it there right now, buddy? Because I'm going to guess it's somewhere around 4 a.m. I could be wrong, but he likes to come in if the evening's right. So I've known him for years. He comes in and hangs out. And we just got 2 new content creators on the Prepper Broadcast Network. One from England, and I think the other one's from Italy. So it's pretty refreshing to get that European mindset or point of view, because we don't get a lot of that in Canada either. Considering we're part of the Commonwealth, we get more American than we get Europe, right?
That makes sense. I think Canada, it's always been a battle. Like, I go back and I look at our analytics. It's always a big battle between Australia and Canada, who's in our number 2 listener spot. Lately, Canada has been kicking Australia's ass, though, in downloads.
Right. There's reasons for that, I'm sure. So
it's just Tim. Tim's our only listener in Canada.
Well, that I was going to blame it on Justin Trudeau, but anyway, that's a whole nother story. So Mike, he's from the Philippines. He said, hey, Jester, how has or has not the stigma of doomsday preppers affected your genre?
Okay, so I'm reading this, specifically the TV show. So a lot of people think that we're nuts. A lot of people think we're goofy, or that we're trying to spread doom and gloom or profiteer off disaster. That seems to be the consensus. However, since the pandemic, a lot has changed, and a lot more people are listening now. There's a lot less of a stigma, I would say, now. And also, a lot of the content we're covering too is just like basic disaster preparedness, how to get ready for a tornado, how to get ready for a hurricane, how to winterize your house so your pipes don't freeze, things like this. So it's not, we've never did an episode on the zombie apocalypse.
You're missing out, man. There's a whole treasure trove of content there. So
maybe one day we will, but we try to be very realist about the prepping and stuff that we do. And a lot of it's how to and things to basically get ready for. Like, we've done episodes, and this would be right up your alley, Tim, on like what tools you'd want to have around if shit hits the fan. You need to have a shovel, you need to have a hammer, things like this, so you could make basic repairs. And a lot of these preppers out there are just going off the radar and going way beyond this, saying, no, you have to have $50,000 of survival food. No, you have to go out and buy these really expensive first aid kits. No, you have to do this, you have to do that. And we're like, look, you can go down the road to the thrift store and you could find yourself a good cast iron skillet, and that's going to be your best friend for cooking over a fire. And this doesn't have to be expensive, So a lot of what we try to do is just to try to give general cheap help to people in like a realistic, logical sense, nothing that's too out of the realm.
That's awesome. So what you're saying is prepping can be inexpensive and practical, as opposed to an underground bunker with 3 pallets of Mountain House?
Yeah.
No shit. I didn't know. Well, guys, I got to change everything I've been teaching. So, yeah. Fuck, that's all. You're right up our community's alley here, man. This is great. I love it, because I find when you look at certain content creators, whatever a person's passion is, you're going to either subconsciously or consciously follow that to its logical or illogical conclusion. So if you're a precious metals guy, you're going to tell everybody, have a fucking safe full of silver and gold, right?
Right.
If you're a food guy, you're probably going to eventually say, hey, have a storage container full of Mountain House, right? But right. I love the more practical end of things where, go to the Goodwill, get this, go, make it work, because, I don't think there. 2 things. First off, I think prepping should make your life better, whether you need it or not. And it should never take away from your day-to-day life or your income or anything like that. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. And, a lot of the stuff I push, ReadyWise is a huge supporter of mine. So I always try to push the ReadyWise stuff, but I'm going to tell you guys, yeah, having freeze-dried food is great because you buy it, it's got a long shelf life. If things don't hit the fan, if shit doesn't hit the fan for 15 years, you know it's going to be good, right? It's going to outlast everything else you have. But the ability to just go get a few canned goods stocked up from Walmart or the dollar store and have a nice little stockpile of food that you don't have to worry about cooking, that is pre-hydrated, that is going to hydrate you and feed you, and you don't have to worry about cooking it, and has a long shelf life, is just as good. But you got to rotate it, right?
If you get past that and then you want to go into long-term storage, hey, we do that ourselves.
Right. Like I've got a ton of freeze-dried food, but it is the idea that if we burn through our regular food stocks, we have that, right? It's there. It's good for 25 years. I don't have to worry about it for a very long time. It's going to be there if I need it. You know, one of the biggest things I preach to people, man, is get books. Get books. If shit really breaks bad and the internet fails, you're going to want to have everything. And I have right behind me, I have a stack of, well, it's behind me over one of these ways. There's all my prepper books are here with me in the studio. So I have reference materials and things to talk to people about. And a lot of what I try to preach is get books on fermentation, canning, smoking meats, cold smoking and hot smoking meats, learn how to preserve things, because that's what you're going to need to do, really.
So let's put you on the spot then. If you could only have 5 books in your underground bunker, or if you had to rebuild, what are 3, 4, 5 of your essential everybody should have for your home prepper library?
Backyard medicine's a good one.
Okay.
Or the Green Pharmacy. Those would be 2 good ones I would recommend. Bushcraft 101 is another really good one. There's a good book out there called Can It and Ferment It. It's another good book I would recommend to have. To kind of not actually a prepper book. Well, it is a prepper book, but this is a pre-shit hit the fan book. I would recommend everybody goes out and gets What to Do When Shit Hits the Fan by Dave Black. You can get this book for like $5 used online. This gentleman is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to any kind of disaster scenario, because he's been all around the world helping out with disasters. And he will tell you in this book what different scenarios will end up bringing. So this is better if you're like wanting to just prepare for a tornado, great, get the book. If you're wanting to prepare for terrorism, great, get the book, because it has everything in there broke down on what's going to happen first, when FEMA is going to come in, what's going to happen next. It's all in this book broke down. Really good book to have before shit hits the fan.
What was the author's name again?
Dave Black.
It's as easy as it comes. There we go. I'll put it up there. We'll see if Facebook blocks out that comment, because I put shit in there, so we're okay. But
yeah, but definitely it's one that I haven't finished yet. I'm still reading through the book. I would add a home remedy book. Yes, I have a home remedy book. Definitely another good one to have. Anything that you guys can get that's going to help you preserve food, help you survive without your daily necessities like electric and a water supply. And then also anything that's going to help you preserve food, because you need food to survive. If you go out and you take a deer, you're going to need to know how to preserve that meat without having a refrigerator. How do we do that? We cold smoke that meat. And you need to know how to do that. And it's not as easy as me just explaining through a podcast on how to build a cold smoker, right?
Absolutely. Are you a prepper porn kind of guy? Do you read any like shit hits fan fiction at all, or any movies? No.
Nah, there's a couple movies I got into here and there, but they're very unrealistic movies. I don't really get in. Like, I've never watched The Walking Dead, and I've never seen it, and everybody's mind's blown by that.
You're not missing much past season 5 anyway, so don't worry about it. But
good.
So you said you were a conspiracy guy. So for me, I was born in 81, so I cut my teeth, junior high, senior high was the 90s. So I grew up on X-Files. That was one of my favorite shows. What was kind of your gateway into conspiracies?
What got me into conspiracies is very simple. September 11th happened.
Yep.
And I had a lot of questions, and things did not make a lot of sense to me. And the older I got, the more I questioned it. And then I became a welder, and I started to understand how metal worked and how hard metal was to actually melt and rip apart, and what some of the tolerances are. and going back and doing some demolition work and stuff and going back and looking at what actually happened, no, it's not adding up. There's no way. And then you start looking at, I'm looking at our government that did this. And then you start to question why. And then you start going down rabbit holes. And once you're in those holes, you never climb out of them. And I've been stuck there for years.
Did you ever listen? So one of my favorites around here, Art Bell, Coast to Coast. Did you ever listen to him on the radio?
I never even heard of him till last year.
Okay, me either. So don't feel bad.
So I was doing a late night show one night, and we were talking about Battle Los Angeles and some weird things that have happened, right? And somebody made a comment in my show that said, "This is like listening to Art Bell," and I'm like, "Who's Art Bell?" So I had to go back and look it up, and I went and listened. I was like, "Oh, this guy's cool." I never got to go back and like really tear into his content, but I do know who he is now.
So if you're in, there's on just about all the podcast feeds, there's called the Art Bell Vault. I don't know who does it, but there's basically every show he did from the early 90s until his death in like I think he retired in 2015, passed in 2017. But if you're ever into ghost stories, he did every Halloween, he did what he called Ghost to Ghost, where people would call in and talk about the craziest kind of, yeah. So if there's nothing, if you've got nothing else, you know what I mean? Like if you don't have time to listen to everything, just go back and listen to his Halloween show every year. Some of them are so full of fucking shit. It's unbelievable, but it's awesome. The stories are great. And it's just got a vibe, man.
I'm definitely gonna have to check that out. That sounds awesome. And, just to go back and reference more, but again, the one podcast I told you about, they do a segment on their show called Listener Tales, where listeners will email in their ghost stories and creepy stories. And some of those are the most entertaining shows that they do. So I'm like, man, that'd be right up my alley. I got to go back and check that out.
I'll send you some links afterwards just to get your appetite wet, because so I got a guy, the guy who was a former paramedic, Kerry Brown is his name. He runs Strong Root Resources now, kind of a permaculture dude, and he's a handyman. He's down in Tennessee, and he used to listen to Art Bell like every night. He worked overnights way back when and loved it. So him and I'm like, hey, what? Well, actually, it was his idea. He said, why don't I come on? We'll each pick 5 memorable guests from the show, and we'll do a show on it. Well, my live streams, they don't tend to catch traction after the fact. You get the bump up front, and everybody listens to the episode, and then you move on to the next one, right? Mm-hmm. Well, for some reason, that episode caught traction, and it's my second highest video every single day now for like 2 months. So there is an appetite for Art Bell out there, and it's cool. So yeah, I'll send you some links. I think you'd enjoy it for sure.
Absolutely. I'll definitely check them out.
So you're talking about kind of collaborating with a lot of different people. Mm-hmm. How have you found success in that, and how important is collaboration to you?
So it has its positives and negatives. I've seen content creators go at each other's throats and really try to destroy each other after collaborating together. I've had it happen to me. Wow. People can get very nasty to one another. I absolutely love putting people up on a platform, and I absolutely love helping people out. Some people take advantage of that, though, and will really screw you over. One buddy I have now, which I don't think he's listening right now, you're going to end up seeing this guy around, I promise, if you haven't already. The gentleman's name is Safe Prep, and he does the Safe Prep show, and he does all disaster preparedness content creation. If you haven't seen him around yet, you're going to see him around. He's newer to this world, but he's out there, and he's probably been one of my biggest supporters. Like every show that he does, he's dropping my name. Nice. He's putting stuff out there. He's tagging me and stuff. He's even doing little breakaway segments out of his show to my show. He's been an absolute great supporter. And you will see him around. I promise. He's up and coming. You'll see him around.
Well, send me his info because I'll get him on the show. I'd love it. We have this mantra around the workshop, and of course it comes from, I grew up in Nova Scotia on the East Coast, but, and you hear my Canadian accent, but I always like to say a rising tide floats all boats, because it does. And we're big into collaboration around here. I have no problem. Like if you want the audio from this show when you're done, you're more than welcome to have it and do whatever the hell you want to do with it. Because for us, that's the way it works. I have lots of friends that we podcast back and forth, and we share all of the different shows with one another. And I don't see, I know there's people who want to compete, but there's enough eyeballs and assholes out there to pay attention to you. You know what I mean? So.
Right. No, hey, Tim, I want to grab something to show you real quick. I think you and your listeners are absolutely love to see this. Give me 1 second. I got to grab something for you guys.
Sure. Yeah. So I hope you guys are enjoying Jester so far. I mean, we've been almost a friggin' hour already, and I've had a lot of fun with him. So I've shared this so many times in the past, guys, but my biggest thing is bringing in all of these people that are from all of these separate groups that maybe we haven't interacted with before. And that's what I love. I think it's awesome. And now we have a cardboard cutout for those of you on the audio feed. So what the hell are we looking at now, Jester?
Okay, so I told you were going to see my buddy Safe Prep around. This is Safe Prep. Okay. He actually, I mean, this guy's hilarious. He actually sent me a life-size cardboard cutout of himself to keep in my studio. So this is Safe Prep. You're going to end up seeing this guy around. He's everywhere. And on the back of this, he sent this nice little love note to us. Congratulations on the new studio, all your success, this, that, the other. Like I said, you've seen him around. You're going to see more of him around. But how hilarious is that? You received that in the mail, right?
Hey, I can't have no problem with that at all. So Tim Pollock is on here. He said, Jester Prep Stock 2023 is our collaboration. So we'll talk about it again later, but talk about it now. What the hell's Prep Stock?
Okay, so thanks, Tim. Appreciate it. So Prep Stock is, you guys all know about Prepper Camp and things like this. Prep Stock is an event we started, and it's designed to be more of a personal event, smaller event where everybody's together a little bit more, not so spread out, and not everybody trying to shove products down your throat. Like, I don't know, Prepper Camp has what, turnout of 1,500, 2,000 people, something like that.
Somewhere around there.
Right. So this event is more like 100, 150 people working together more closely with people, doing things more hands-on, and more of a private type event. Okay. And what's up, Cindy? Welcome in. So this is something that we're trying to host once a year, trying to get it to be an annual event. I got something here I could show you guys, our logo. One of our good friends was kind enough to make a bunch of these for us for our event. So these are a bunch of hand sanitizer they made. So that's our little Prep Stock logo there.
Which is fucking awesome. That'll be a good patch. Yeah,
pretty cool. So we're actively working right now. Tickets just went on sale for this event, guys. If anybody's interested in coming to this is taking place in Townsend, Tennessee. We have a lodge there that sleeps 60 people. It is like a shared sleeping bunkhouse arrangement. There is going to be some tent camping as well there, but we are limited on that. And, 2-3 day event with speakers and campfire talk and little different hands-on projects. And we're going to do some things like apocalypse bingo and have a fishing tournament for the kids. And, we got all these cool little things planned out. So it's definitely a family-friendly event. Alcohol-free, no alcohol at the event. But we are trying to, and this is like our big new thing, is we just started a crowdfunding thing so we could acquire our own property to host this event every year. If we have our own property, we could host our own event. We could have our own rules. For someone like you, Tim, if you say, what's up, Kylie? Welcome in. If you say to yourself, hey, Jester, I would love to come to Prep Stock, but it's so far. I'm coming all the way from Canada. I can't come for just 3 days. It just doesn't make sense. Well, guess what, Tim? We got our own property now. If you want to come down for 5 days, you can come down for 5 days, bud. It's all you, because we don't have a check-in or check-out date because it'll be our own facility, which means we are more open and more inclined to do things. And I mean, this could come with us putting in our own shooting range or our own archery course or doing something really cool that we couldn't do at these other places. So this is something we're really going to be pushing hard for here over the next year.
And when is that?
Right now, Prep Stock takes place over Columbus Day weekend. I don't have the exact dates in front of me for this. I want to say it's the second week of October.
which is really cool, guys, because everybody else kind of in the surrounding TSP, LFTN workshop community, there's this little event in Camden, Tennessee called Self-Reliance Festival, which is the first weekend in October. So if anybody's looking to make kind of do the prepping journey, I think by the looks of things, I think a follower could do prepper camp, then Self-Reliance Festival, then prepper stock, and then I think the one in Knoxville is soon after yours too, isn't it?
It quite possibly. I know I'm attending the event in Texas this year. That's supposed to be in May. I haven't seen an update yet of what's going to happen in Tennessee.
Okay.
I may or may not be there. I'm not quite sure yet, but prep stock is taking place Friday, October 6th through Monday, October 9th. So that's Columbus Day weekend. Right. October 6th through the 9th. Thank you, Tim. Just saw that pop up. And you know, I'm just going to go ahead and do something real quick because I'm over here watching on YouTube as well. I'm just going to, let everybody know that I'm in here and just say hi to everybody.
Absolutely. And if you can send me, or Tim, the problem is I haven't been able to figure this out yet, guys. A couple of years of live streaming, and usually the audience can't share links. So if somebody can email one to me or whatever you want to do it, I'll make sure it gets shared out to the community too, because that's really cool.
Absolutely. I'm just going back and reading some of these now. Cold War Prepper says what's happening here in May. Is he, I'm assuming he's in Texas?
Yes. Yeah, he is. I've had Lee is good shit. He is ex-forces, just an incredible dude. I've had him on my show, but yeah, go ahead. Tell us what goes on there too.
So the Self-Reliance Expo, they're doing one in Fredericksburg, Texas, supposed to be at the end of May for the Self-Reliance Expo. I do plan on attending that event. I do plan on doing the show from the event. Basically anything that DJ is the one that hosts the event, DJ Cooper. So anything that she would need for me, I kind of got her back, and I'm going to be on board for it. I do plan on getting down there. I'm pretty excited for it.
Nice. And you haven't been there before for that event?
No, I did the one in Tennessee. I guess some of these events that they're doing are newer, and I just discovered them last year. I never even knew they existed. One of DJ's friends ended up approaching me at Prepper Camp to tell me about the Self-Reliance Expo and got me on board and got me in there. And I'm like, this is pretty sweet. They actually absorbed and saved our asses, man. They absorbed prep stock last year because we had so many speakers just cancel and not, just cancel last minute. Hey, we're not coming. A lot of people dropped out. Where we were originally holding prep stock kind of screwed us on price. Things were going to hell in a handbag, and she really came through and saved us for our event. So anything she needs, I have her back 100%.
There's so many. I don't know. It's a great time to be a prepper. I think it's a great time to be in the preparedness field, and it waxes and wanes. We love to talk about Y2K here, and then we love to joke about 2012 when the world was supposed to end because of the Mayans and that sort of thing. But the interest in prepping, again, when things look bad, people get excited, and then it passes. But boy, it sure is fun, and hopefully some people who come to it will stick around, because I always say fear is a really good short-term motivator, but you need to you need to find something more than that short-term fear if you want to stay in the prepper sphere for the and be better at it, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And so the coolest thing about going to these events isn't necessarily the knowledge or the cool products. It's the community and the people 100%. You get to meet, and the relationships that carry on. And I've already got my tickets for next year's prepper camp. We went and bought them. I told my wife, I said, listen, tickets are discounted right now. I said, they're going to go up. I said, so we have an option. I said, we could pay double later if we decide to go, or we could pay half the price now and maybe go. I said, I'm pretty sure I'm going, so maybe we should just get those tickets and lock them in. And as of now, I'm going for sure. I don't know if we're doing the show or not yet. I got to talk to Rick and Jane and see if I'm really on the fence about doing the show again from there, but I'm definitely going to be there.
Fuller's got I don't know. There's so many things that we can figure out, but I'm not even sure where to start with the technology to get a better signal in there. I don't know if a Fuller looked at I've got a buddy, Brian Alexovich. He runs the Lots Project YouTube channel and podcast. He has Starlink, Elon Musk's one, and he's had great luck with it. And with that big open sky there at in prepper camp at Saluda, I think and it might be something to look at eventually, because it's not. I mean, it's not cheap, but it's not cost prohibitive either, right?
No, not really. Saluda, I don't believe, is on the map for coverage yet. I still think they're working on trying to get. I still think they're working on trying to get Saluda under the coverage map. Right now, I've got Skyroam, and Skyroam works great. Skyroam works off cell signal, but it jumps at any tower. So it doesn't matter if you're near Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile. It doesn't matter. They're contracted for every cell carrier, so they'll grab any cell tower around. And I even use this when I'm overseas. This works overseas as well. So it has international plans, and it does work. Sometimes it's spotty, but it gets the job done for the most part. But because we had so many people at prepper camp and everybody was clogging up those towers in that immediate area, we didn't get any signal at all. We didn't get any signal till the end of the day when everybody was basically gone for the day. And then in the campground, we had great signal, and the Wi-Fi in the campground was fantastic.
I never even frigged with the Wi-Fi. I was just, I spent the first week in the States trying to keep my data turned on because they wouldn't give me an international plan that was worth anything. But then I fought with them 3 or 4 times, and now all of a sudden I got the greatest international plan you can get. So it doesn't make any sense, but that's good to know. I'll remember that for next year, because it's an awesome spot. It's in the middle of nowhere, but it's an awesome spot.
Right, and I've kind of made the determination, if I decide to do the show again from prepper camp, I'm probably going to do everything pre-recorded and just upload later. Live streaming from there was just way too difficult, way too difficult.
I get it. If you record locally, but also have it going out over the speakers, it gives that live event feel. But you've got a hard copy that will be as good as gold,
Right, yeah, and I'm going to talk to Rick and Jane. The big thing about getting a booth there and everything else is everyone plan on attending Prep Stock, lots of good people and info. Yes, so Prep Stock, like I said, that's our events, and they're going to thank you just a minute too. I really want to talk to Rick and Jane and find out if they couldn't put me somewhere outside of the event a little bit. I noticed walking around there through the day, there was areas where I was getting signal. The other thing is, a lot of people were upset about our speakers. I had people coming to me, turn them up, turn them down, turn them up, turn them down, because 1 second they're too loud, 1 minute they're not loud enough. And honestly, we don't make money being there. So for us to pay for a booth, pay $300 for a booth, we're not making anything off that. We're not physically selling a product like everybody else is. So it doesn't make much sense for us to pay a vendor fee. Right. And I mean, we are offering free promotion for the event. So maybe Rick and Jane will cut a deal with me saying, hey, we'll put you outside the entrance where you'll kind of be out of people's hair. We'll let you put a couple Bluetooth speakers around so people could catch your audio, and maybe that'll work. Right.
That'd be awesome. I'd be great. Yeah. Did I tell you what happened when I got to interview 5 Times August there? We sat down, had the musician at the event, and I just recorded the whole thing, did the whole thing, fucking kick-ass interview. We finish up, I go to review the audio, no audio. Had all the video I wanted, but my mic, I forgot to turn on one half of my lapel mic. So Brad was a stand up enough guy that we did the whole interview again. So
I remember you telling me this. Yeah.
Oh, you ever had anything like that happen to you?
A lot of times. I actually lost a lot of interviews from prepper camp. Yours may have been one of them. It might be saved somewhere on a disc, but I lost a lot of interviews from prepper camp because we were recording. We initially started recording everything online, and it was being saved online. I went back, and it was spotty. It was missing stuff, or it didn't record right. It was horrible. And then we started doing everything on an SD card. Some stuff came out great. Some stuff came out with horrible background audio. It was just all over the place. And that's why, like, next year, I'm like, I got to do it different.
Absolutely. So with It's Doomsday podcast, and you're kind of branching into a bit of So, okay, you opened a new studio.
Mhm.
Can you talk a little bit about what this new venture is that you're looking to get into?
Okay, yeah. So having the studio made sense for obviously doing the show. I do two shows. I do It's Doomsday podcast, and then there's a comedy show I do as well called the Beans and Weenie Show, where I'm kind of the third wheel on the show. I kind of jumped in, and it's rotten comedy. I mean, it's just rotten, nasty comedy. It's bad. So it made sense that I did have a studio because I'm doing so much with the audio side of things. Now, because of the love of podcasting, I thought to myself, I could totally do this as a business. I could host people in the studio to record shows. People could come in off the street, say, hey, I want to try my hand at podcasting, but I don't want to go out and buy the equipment. Can I do this here? Yes, you can for a nominal fee. And that's basically what it is, to bring people in here, allow them to record and host their shows, possibly do a little bit of producing for them, do a little bit of editing for them, and get their shows online and help people get their voices out there. That's something I'm really interested in doing with the studio. And we're almost there. We're not quite up and running yet, but we're getting there, and hopefully we'll be up and running soon.
Something else you could do? You could, I'm thinking along the lines of, if you're looking at producing and looking at editing, you don't have to physically be near someone to do that either. So you could offer those talents electronically to people across the entire country and expand your offering.
Whoa. Yeah, you're 100% right. I never thought about that. It would be very easy to pull somebody in as long as they had good sound quality in the back and pull them in and do the recording and do the editing for them. I absolutely could. Or if they would want to send me raw audio, I could absolutely do that. And I do that for friends. I do that right now for friends. I'll edit some stuff for people if they need it. But I didn't really think about that as far as this side of it. So yeah, I absolutely should do that.
You hang around the workshop long enough, we'll figure out a way to turn this into a full-time fucking venture, my friend. I'm telling you, this is what we do around here. We want to see everybody succeed. So
that's definitely awesome. A good idea.
Yeah,
definitely a good idea.
If you ever want to brainstorm, just holler at me, because I love it. Yeah. Let's see, guys, look at ways to always make more income, or you've got an existing expense, right, Jester? So you've got this office or this studio space that you want to use. So if nothing else, you get yourself a couple of clients and the damn thing pays for itself.
Right. That was the initial plan was, hey, let's get a couple sponsors to pay for everything. People are really weary about sponsoring. And I've had a lot of companies turn me down for things, and that's okay. Maybe they'll come back later and be like, yeah, now we'll do stuff. But for now, we're getting by, with what we can, and hopefully at some point though we'll get some support. But absolutely, getting some people in here to record or doing some things online, some editing, would definitely turn a profit to help keep this place paid for.
So this Jason, he is a cool dude. Used to live in Texas, now lives in Tennessee. He prints. I mentioned to you before probably about special operations equipment. That's John Willis. That's where Self-Reliance Festival is. Anyway, Jason prints all of John's T-shirts. Plus, he's also a moonshiner. So he was distilling at Self-Reliance Festival in September, October when I was there. So
I was there this year.
Earlier in the year, because
I was there. I was at Self-Reliance Expo in October.
No, so that Self-Reliance Expo, that's in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Right.
Here's where it gets complicated.
I'm totally lost.
This is Self-Reliance Festival in Camden, Tennessee. I don't even think that there was any. I don't think one was aware of the other when they named themselves or how far they're from each other. So this was in Camden, and it's an incredible event. I think they packed about 500 people in there, and on John's compound, that's not a small feat. And we had some pretty cool. Billy Bond was there from Perma Pasture Farms, Jack Spiraker from the Survival Podcast, Nicole from Living Free in Tennessee, Joel, who was at Prepper Camp, Fortress Canine, the one with the dogs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was there as well. He's my initial sponsor. I picked up a sponsor this year, so it's. Seriously, it's an awesome, and the people, you won't meet a better group of people, I'll tell you.
So are there tickets available for this? Can anybody go, or is this like a private thing, or what?
No, there's tickets. Yep, you can buy tickets. Jason, when is the next event? I want to say it's March. So I think there's going to be one in March. I think there's 3 a year. So like I said, I went to the one right after prepper camp, and it's it's really good. It's worth your time. You can get a booth there too if you want. But you can't leave there without being motivated. Let's put it that way. So.
Right. I mean, I'm not that far from Tennessee. For me to shoot out there for a weekend to go check out some of these events, I'd absolutely love to.
I'll send you a link for that too. So just remind me. But it's good friends of mine, John Willis and Nicole Sauce, who basically organized the entire event. And it's fucking, oh man, it's awesome. And it's cool because what I love about it is, of course, love prepper camp, but each event you go to has its own type of people, right?
Right.
Prepper camp has its own type of person. But what I really liked about Self-Reliance is it was kind of a mix between anarcho-capitalists and there was, some granola hippies too, right? It was a really cool kind of mix, which you don't get at a lot of events. So I like that because I want to talk to as many people who don't quite think the way I do,
No, it makes sense. What's the turnout like at this other one?
I want to say, I think there's around 500 at this last one.
Wow, that's a lot of people.
Yeah, and that was of course, Jason, if I'm wrong, correct me here, but I want to say it's only been the third event, and I think they'll top out, I don't know, 750, maybe 1,000, but if they could get 1,000 at John's compound, it'll be fucking packed. So yeah.
So is everybody like tent camping there, or is there a different place to go? What's up, Jelly?
Yeah, so Camden's awesome. So I went there right after I left prepper camp. So I left prepper camp at 6 o'clock that night, Sunday night. I had to be in Camden. So 7 hours later for 8 o'clock the next morning, I did 4 days of rifle and pistol training at Tactical Response, which is also in Camden. So I got a hotel there. It was great because John's just outside the town. So it's not like you have to travel. It's not like Saluda, for instance. You'd have to travel a bit to find a hotel. It was about 10 minutes from my hotel to where the festival was. So, but you can also camp. They do offer on-site just tent camping, but it's getting really packed in there. So, so Jason said first one was 150, second 300. The most recent one was 500.
So it's almost doubling in size every time.
Yes.
Wow.
And you've got all these people with just incredibly dedicated communities and audiences that are just, there's a hunger for this shit, man. That's why, like Prep Stock, I have no doubt will be successful because people want it,
A lot of people are turned off by the idea of shared sleeping arrangements. They don't like that.
You know what? It is what it is. I might be a prepper, but I don't fucking love camping anymore. The older I get, I'm like, So if I bring my wife to anything, the deal is it's basically got to be a hotel. So, which is cool. That's just our thing. So if I go by myself, I can sleep in a tent. But if we go to something and she's with me, then I got to have a hotel. I've learned to live with that. We bought a camper, never used it. So yeah, here we are.
Right. And I mean, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I mean, I guess people were, for our event, they were like, look, you guys are doing this shared bunkhouse sleeping. It's like kind of like military style bunk beds, but a lot nicer. And a lot of people were like, I am not sleeping with all these people and hearing them snore and doing all this stuff. And I'm like, that's fine. You don't have to come. But I got to tell you what, it was like dead silent the whole night. I didn't hear anybody snoring. It was totally quiet. Like temperature was great. Nobody complained. We had a great time. No complaints at all.
How far are you from like another town? Like if somebody wanted to go, but stay at a hotel or something, or is it just way too far?
I don't want to say it's necessarily way too far, but I mean, there's not much in the area. There's not even any really restaurants in the immediate area. The only real thing that I can remember being out there is there's one gas station. Okay. The town it's out of is Townsend, Tennessee. And I know there's a few things in Townsend. I didn't get to explore the area much, so I'm not sure what all is there. I imagine there's got to be something that's not too far away.
Oh, that's cool. I love it. And every event offers something different for different people, right? So Jason's going to, he's going to run a still. He's going to build a still and raffle it off at the next event. So It's yeah. And Jason just said, I assume the reason he introduced me was to tell him about the remote editing my buddy does for the podcast. Yes, that's the beauty of community, man. Like, there's people all over the board, and that's what so everybody. Okay, I'm going to ask you this: who is you have guests on your show, some, right?
Yeah, occasionally, time to time.
Who's your dream guest? If you could have somebody that you'd love to interview, who would it be? And you can't say Toolman Tim because that's not fair. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Honestly, it wouldn't be necessarily for a prepper related reason in any way, shape, or form. But one person I would love to sit down and have an interview with would be Corey Taylor, which is
Slipknot.
Yes. Slipknot.
Yes.
Yeah. Slipknot, Stone Sour.
Sour.
He would be my dream interview. Yeah.
Hang on keep talking.
Wait, is he there? Are you going to get him?
I got the next best thing I just picked up though, so I figured you'd appreciate this. So I'm a vinyl guy.
Ah, look at that.
Yeah, just picked that up the other day. So I thought you'd appreciate it. Yeah, my daughter, it's awesome. She's gonna turn 13, one of the twins. She came home the other day. She goes, Dad, one of my friends is really into Slipknot. I'm like, fuck yeah. I go, ask her if she's ever listened to Stone Sour. And she's like, she hasn't. So then she did, and she fell in love with it. So
oh yeah.
So now my daughter, yeah. So it's cool. It's a good time, man. I love it.
I'm hoping to meet him. I believe it's next month or the following month. I'm trying to remember. He's going to be at HorrorCon. There's like a HorrorCon festival here in North Carolina. I want to say it's next month. I can't remember. He's going to be there along with a few cast members from American Horror Story and a couple of the cast members from Scream. Nev Campbell's going to be there, I believe. She's somebody I had a crush on when I was younger.
Fellow Canadian who had a huge crush on her back in the day, man.
So maybe I could get some autographs. Maybe I could slip Corey a note saying, hey, dude, would love to have you on the show. Email me, maybe.
Come up with something original. That's all there is to it, right? That's just, yeah, it doesn't always, I've been turned down by some pretty big guests that I have reached out to, but they only got to say yes once, right? So.
Right. And I mean, the worst he could do is say no. He's not going to like punch me in the face if I ask him.
And if you do, you got a fucking cool story too.
Right. So. Heck of a cool story.
That's awesome. So are you a horror guy or are you just going because Corey Taylor's there?
You know, I'm mainly going because Corey Taylor's there. I mean, I like my scary stuff. I like my horror movies. I've never really got into what everybody else got into. So I like horror movies, and I like murder mysteries, like my big thing. I am not a guy that gets into the gory side of things. I could never do like the Saw movies, things like that. I can't do the gore. But I absolutely love the murder mystery side of it. Like that's a big thing for me. I love the mystery.
That's cool. My wife and I are big horror buffs. So what do you have a favorite movie?
So the first horror movie that I really seen, that I really actually watched, were the initial Scream movies. Those were the big ones for me, and so those are my go-tos every Halloween, is to go back and rewatch those. Outside of that, I got really sucked into the American Horror Story series. And that's, again, I have to go back and watch that. There wasn't too many other horror movies that really, there's nothing like the first one you watch, right? So not too many things really got me sucked in. There's a lot of different things I like, but you know, the Scream movies, not even though they're not the most awesome ones.
Oh, they were groundbreaking at the time, though. Yeah,
they were, and I come to find out that the story was based on a real guy. Like, a lot of people don't know that. There was a gentleman down in Florida that was committing these killings, and I can't remember what exactly they called the guy now. But it was something like, I think he was called the Ocala Ripper, is what I think his name was. And if you go back, there's actually a few podcasts on this guy. There's really, really creepy guy, and wasn't necessarily following the exact storyline. A lot of things in Scream were fabricated, but this guy, again, I think his name is the Ocala Ripper, was who the Scream series was based off of, and then they took it Hollywood and it went into a complete different direction.
So Wes Craven, the writer of Scream, I love he based Freddy Krueger on, well, at least the idea of the whole dream thing. He based on a news story he read as well, which is really cool. But one of my favorite horror movies is a Wes Craven, People Under the Stairs, and it's from the late '80s. It went under the radar a lot, but I love that one. It's a creepy, real cheesy kind of. It's got that real late '80s, early '90s aesthetic, kind of like Candyman did, you know. So anyway, but it's more of a gore movie, but that's definitely one of my favorites. So Just a Minute said my favorite movie and book genre is horror. So yeah, been a huge Stephen King fan since I was old enough to read fiction, you know. So that's cool. Yeah. So the reason I asked that is I'm going to segue back a little bit. I talk about talking to community and just putting things out there. So Gary V, do you ever see him? He does like motivational talks, and he's fairly wealthy. And he always talks about owning, I think it's the New York Jets. He says if he keeps talking about it, eventually one day he's going to own the New York Jets, something like that. So my guest is Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs. So I keep telling everybody that, and people have made connections for me. I have a friend who sent him a knife. He's reached out. It always happens. And eventually I've been turned down by his people like 3 times, but I will have him on my show. It's going to happen. So you just keep talking about it to enough people. Eventually somebody's going to know Corey Taylor, and they're like, I'll make the connection for Jester. So.
Right. And I feel that you will get Mike Rowe, man.
Oh, I will. It's just a matter of time.
Right. It is. So, it's only a matter of time. And I feel like this show would be right up his alley anyway. Why is he not on here?
You just got to be, you got to get in his sphere of influence. You know, I just got to find a way to make myself known to him. Right. So that's all. Right.
And eventually it'll happen. I'm sure.
100% it will. It'll happen before. So I'm going to celebrate episode here's a prediction, guys, that I haven't said before, but episode 250 is going to be February 9th this year. So it'll happen before episode 500. Let's see if I can be right. I might be wrong, but you got to set big fucking goals or you'll never do anything. Right.
Right. No. And I mean, you know, I'm going to think of a creative way to approach Corey Taylor about this. Right. Yeah. Somehow I'm going to do it. And really what I want to pick his brain about. So he's very anti-establishment, right?
Yes.
He's very anti-government. He doesn't let a lot of it shine through a whole lot, but also he's had a really bad past and he's seen the shitty side of humanity. So that's what I want to primarily talk to him about. Like, dude, I want your stance on the government. What do you think is going to happen if shit, like I'm going to ask him about shit hitting the fan because I want to know what he has to say. But I also want to bring up how sick do you think society is, and what could we potentially be looking at from your point of view? Because he's a guy that's traveled the world. He's interacted with a ton of people and probably a lot of psychotic fans. So I think he would have a lot of good things to say. And I think that's how I need to approach this. Like, we don't need to talk about the music. I want to talk about everything but the music and some things that are probably going to make you a little uncomfortable. That's if I don't pass out during the interview.
Yeah. Well, you need to do it because I'm telling you right now, if you ask him one question that he's never been asked before in his life, he'll never forget you as long as he lives. Because those guys are used to going on media tours where they go in a hotel room and this radio station, and they all ask the same goddamn question 1,000 times. Like, where's your influence? Or why did you guys pick Scary Masks for Slipknot? You know, that kind of bullshit, easy questions. So I'm just tell him, I got no dope, man. That'd be awesome. I would. Yeah. See, here's Jason. He says, my goal is to print shirts for a Pop Evil tour. Matt Dorito, their bass player, is alumni. So I'm trying. Yeah. So alumni at Tactical Response. I'm going to guess he's the musician who is up on the wall. So I'm telling you, this is the power of community, man. Somebody out there listening, if you've got a connection to Corey Taylor, let us know because we got to make it happen. But yeah, come up with something original. And I see, this is the beauty of this podcast. I never know where it's going to go when we start, but now we're talking about Slipknot, Stone Sour, and Corey Taylor. So
yeah, it's absolutely awesome.
That is cool. I'd love to hear that. I'd pay big bucks. You could put that behind a Patreon paywall, and I'd still pay to listen to you interview him. So
right, yeah, I don't know. So I'm definitely going to figure out a creative way to approach him, mainly because this is going to be. I've been in proximity of him before, going to different concerts and stuff, but never in this close proximity. So hopefully I'll be able to slip a note. I'll be able to ask him a question. I'll be able to do something to say, hey, dude, what do I got to do to get you on the show? Something.
Is he going to do it? So it's like a Comic-Con, right? Kind of.
Right. Yeah.
So are they going to do a where you can pay for a photo op or an autograph?
Pretty sure, yes. And I've got things I want autographed.
Okay. So because I've gone to Comic-Cons before, and like a couple of I can't think of his name right. Skeet Ulrich from Scream. He was off a TV show Jericho, which I love. So the cool thing is, if you pay for, especially those guys, if you get a couple of minutes. I'm sure Corey Taylor's going to be run right off his feet, but you might get 30 seconds, you might get a minute and a half, but you've got that uninterrupted time that you paid for. So yeah, make it fucking worth your while, man.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and I guess so that's a big goal, to shoot for. The big thing right now that's like weighing on my mind is making sure Prep Stock goes off this year without a hitch.
That's awesome.
This is, I'll tell you what, man, like for anybody out there that's ever planned events, and I know some people in here, Cindy was planning events, and I'm sure a couple other people have in here. Listen, I'll tell you what, the stress that you get put under the closer it gets to these events is unreal. And I was so just satisfied when everything was over last year. And the moment Prep Stock was over, it was done. I got home the very next day. I wake up in the morning, my phone starts ringing first thing in the morning. We got to get this scheduled for next year. And I'm like, shit, I didn't know there was going to be a next year yet. So we literally less than 48 hours after the event coming to a close, it was already booked again for next year. And you want to talk about community. It was the community that drove this, the people behind me that were like, yes, it was great. Do it again. You have to. We need this. It's great. And I'm hoping that next year is just as successful. And I'm hoping we get you there. And I'm hoping Tim is going to be a speaker at Prep Stock.
I'll do my best. It's within my wheelhouse, man. We've talked a couple times now, and I'm going to be in the area. And so I've told lots of people, we bought 10 acres in Tennessee, and my plan this year is to be like September 15th to October 15th in Tennessee, North Carolina. I'm going to try to do some more tactical training at Tactical Response. And yeah, so I think I can make it happen. I won't promise anything right now, but I don't want to be that guy, but no, I think I can. It'll be awesome. So
are you attending? We may have hit on this already. We've talked about so much. Are you doing prepper camp again this year?
Yeah, 99%, unless the fucking world falls apart and I can't get out of the country. So, but yeah, the way it looks is it'll be prepper camp and then Self-Reliance Festival after that. And well, looks like probably Prep Stock after that, which would be cool.
Hopefully Prep Stock. You know what? One of the coolest things about Prep Stock is honestly the area where we have it. We are tucked away back in the middle of nowhere. It's a church camp, right? But it's back in the middle of nowhere, and we get the whole entire camp to ourselves. There's nobody else there because this is outside of their season. So we have the entire lodge to ourselves, the mess hall to ourselves. Everything is all us. There's nobody else there except for one or two camp staff. There's nobody else there. It's really cool. There's hiking trails. There's all kinds of things going on. It's really awesome.
So by putting together events, what did you learn? Because we're looking at putting one together here this year. So any lessons that you can share that you fell flat on your face or worked really well? Or
Yeah. Okay. So first off, I will say this. Anybody that says they're going to be a speaker, anybody that says they're going to show up and help for the event, if they don't have a history of doing it, do not count on them. A lot of people think they want to be speakers and do stuff until it comes down to it, and then they bail on you. And they don't understand that it's you on the line saying somebody else is going to be there. They don't understand they're making you look bad. They don't understand that you're counting on them. Only get speakers and demonstrators that have done this before. And I know that sucks because you're basically selling off and cutting all the new guys' throats and saying, don't deal with the new guy. But there's a lot of people who think they want to do this and then they shit the bed. If it is a new guy, make sure he's a new guy that's around a lot. Make sure he's actually producing content and he's responsible and he's got his shit together, right? Yes. Also, yeah, Tim, get everything in writing that you possibly can. That's a big part of this. And do remember, everything can go wrong. We prep guys have contingencies on top of contingencies. People will get flat tires. People will not show up. People will bail last minute because maybe someone got sick or something big came up in someone's life and they just can't attend now. Always be prepared.
Almost like being a prepper. That's crazy. Yeah.
I love Jason's comment. Everyone wants to be a gangster till it's time to do some gangster shit.
100%. That's what it comes down to. So I do a lot, like I said, do a lot of collaboration. We just did on New Year's Eve to New Year's Day, I did a 24-hour live stream. So I reached out to, I didn't reach out to you, but I need to reach out to you for the next one. We're going to change it up a bit, but we got basically about an hour's worth of content from 21 different content creators. And I made this live because I'm a talk radio junkie. At least I used to be. Now that I'm an anarchist, I could give two shits about politics. But I grew up listening to talk radio. So I did this thing we called the Workshop Radio. It was a 24-hour live stream. And my big thing is I don't care how big or small your audience is at all. I don't care about that. All I want to see is consistency. Anybody I've ever reached out to, I want to see that they've been putting out content on a regular basis for at least a little bit of time so that they know what the grind is all about, right?
Right, makes sense.
And so that for me is the big thing is, like I said, it really doesn't matter. And also it really helps to have someone in the community that'll vouch for them as well. So if you don't necessarily know somebody, I found it's really good to have, if it's somebody that knows somebody, like Jason was talking about tactical response earlier. So when you go to tactical response and you take a course from them, you aren't just alumni, they consider you family after that. So you've got this family of a few thousand people who have gone through those doors that you can reach out to and make contacts with. And if somebody vouches for them, it's something, it's like being in the mafia. So it's worth, see if you want to talk about this a little bit. Filipino Nomad says, check their track record, referrals, recent activity, reputation, consistency, and commitment.
Right. And, I'm totally on board with that. A lot of the times, though, I found with prep stock is people were coming out of the woodwork a little bit like, hey, I'd love to be a speaker. I'd love to show up and do this. And, I would tell people, hey, it's our first year. I don't really have funding to pay you anything. So if you want to come, we'd appreciate you. And a lot of guys were like, hey, I just want to do it to do it. I don't care about the money. And we'd start coming up in time and I'd be trying to email and contact and they're just gone. That was a big thing we had because we had kind of someone to do everything for prep stock originally. And then by the end of it, there was nobody. Everybody bailed, everybody fell out and we got put in a real bad bind. And that's what I was saying. The Self-Reliance Expo definitely helped us out a lot and made it worth it for the people that showed up.
I don't get the whole ghosting thing. Like what is that? Where does that come from?
I don't know. There was one gentleman I was really fired up about. He contacted me. He saw some things we were doing online to promote prep stock. And he reached out to me. He says, hey man, I'd love to come and do demonstrations at your event. And I was like, cool. What do you do? He's like, I do hunting and trapping. And I'm like, oh, we need a trapper guy. That's awesome. Sure. And he started, he has an actual business doing pest removal, trapping, all these things. And I'm like, yes, dude. Yes, I want you there. And he was close enough in driving proximity, everything else. And then just stopped responding to emails. And I'm like, what the hell, man? Where'd you go? And nothing. And this was like kind of a consistent thing. I was reaching out to local fire, EMS, police, everybody, the state defense forces, everybody just to come out and put speakers on. Even Smokey the Bear blew us off. I mean, nobody wanted to. Smokey. Damn it, Smokey. Nobody wanted to come out. And it was so frustrating. At the end of it, I'm just like, you can't count on anybody for anything. So what I'm doing this year is anybody that's saying they're going to come out and be a speaker or come out and do something, as soon as you confirm with me, your photos going up where the ticket sales are going up. There's going to be a little brief bio and what you're going to be talking about. And right at the bottom of that, I'm putting a contact email for you. And if you don't show up, you're going to have to answer to everybody why you didn't show up.
That's actually pretty good. I like that.
Yeah, so contact him for more information, or if he doesn't show up.
Yeah, that's dickhead.
Because really, I mean, we're not in a position to really pay people to be there.
Sure.
So that kind of creates a problem. And to go back to this crowdfunding thing for Prep Stock, you know, that's a big thing. Is we're collecting ticket money just to have a place to host the event, right? Imagine if we had our own property and we were collecting ticket money to pay for people to be there. Right. That would be, I mean, if I could sweeten the deal and tell a speaker, hey, if you come out and speak for an hour, we'll pay you $200. I'm there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so imagine if we could redirect the ticket sale money into getting better speakers out there, getting better people out there. I think it'd be phenomenal.
Well, here's what I see. So I'm just going to throw it out there as well. You go and get your own land. Then all of a sudden you can have 2 or 4 events a year if you want to. You can lease or rent the land out to other people. You can run training facilities or training, you know, you could not even be involved, but you could say, hey, this guy wants to run, I don't know, like a hunting and trapping course, and he needs property to do it. So all of a sudden you could make a little bit of money from that as well. You could Airbnb it, or not Airbnb, Hip Camp. You could set up a few campsites there so that you could make a little ongoing revenue that way. I know a guy, Lots Project, Brian, who is actually getting ready to run that business. He's going to do his own thing. He's creating his own kind of interface. So I just see all kinds of opportunity to make money there.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I did a live earlier, you know, talking to my friends and followers and supporters. And I said to him, I said, listen, this is going to have to become a business in order to keep itself going. There's going to be property tax. There's going to be maintenance. There's going to be upkeep. Things are going to happen on this property in order to generate an income to keep it afloat. And I'm okay with if we're renting it to the Boy Scouts, or we're doing different camps, or we're doing multiple events a year. Instead of me doing multiple events a year, I'd rather other people do events.
Yes.
But I'm going to do whatever I can. And like one big thing for me is I need to have this in such close proximity to my house to where I could show up there and monitor what's going on and do the maintenance, or I'm inadvertently opening a whole nother set of responsibilities in a whole nother potential business in doing this idea. But I can't wrap my mind around continuously increasing ticket prices for Prep Stock just to put that money into somebody else's pocket, not being able to expand, being limited to their rules, being limited to their guidelines, being limited to a rental space time. There's just so many limitations, and we're just lining somebody else's pocket. To me, it's just idiotic to keep doing that year after year after year. You know?
I do. I'm a big fan of being in control of your own destiny. So if you can do it, like we talked, you know, let's go full circle back to when you first started welding and you threw your back out for $15 an hour or whatever the fuck it was. Right. I mean, you can do that now. You can be at the mercy of some other campground and make peanuts or nothing, or lose your shirt over it. Or you can take a chance, get your own land. And if nothing else, at least we got a troll or something in the comments tonight. It's great. So, but yeah, you absolutely could. And the cool thing about that is, you know, if you're going to run an event where you rent from somebody else, you got limitations put on you right from day one, right? Right from the start. And you're only going to reach so far. But if you go and get your own land and create your own thing, well, the entire thing is, there's no end to what you could do, right? So just for everybody out there, we have a wonderful troll. So we love to feed the trolls here in the workshop. I don't know who GF is, but apparently they're obsessed with my flatulence. So I appreciate that. So here's the deal. I always love to make money off of these, but okay. So apparently GF thinks I farted on Jester, and for everybody else, I farted in a cup and made an old lady smell it. So the first person that signs up for Patch of the Month Club, so you go to patchofthemonth.co. If you sign up and email me fart in the subject line, I'll make sure that I throw in 4 free patches. So thank you, GF, for making me more money, and you are now gone. Have a great night. So, yeah, one of those nights, guys. Gotta love it.
No, and I'm happy though, because I see a lot of my people came in here tonight. So thank you guys also for coming in. I appreciate you guys.
Oh, this was great. Jason says this is something I've had to come to terms with. Burn the bridges, burn the boats. So whenever anybody's asked me before, Tim, how do you start a business? And my response is side hustle all day long, night and day, which is true. Save your money, then walk away from the man. That's never how I did it. I walked away from the man and then started something because I got so burnt out. So I never take my own advice. But there's something to be said about taking a big chance and burning the bridge and burning the boats and having to stand on your own 2 feet to make money. You ever did? Yeah. What do you think?
Well, no, I completely agree. So, and I'm going to tell you a story. 2012, I was doing a staircase job inside a hotel in Indian Rocks Beach, Florida. Every so often, they would redo different parts of this hotel. Salt air, steel stairs, right. They got to be replaced, right? I was on this job. I had 2 to 3 employees at the time whenever people were available. Keeping employees at the time was very hard to do. I ended up falling through the staircase on this job and royally screwed up my knee. I was on crutches and I had a brace on for about 2 months. I was wrecked, right? And this job started in November, led into December. Now, I had 1 employee quit on me in the middle of the job, and I had my other 2 just like were hit or miss whether they were showing up for work or not. So I ended up having to finish the job because if I don't finish the job, I don't get paid, right? So I am on crutches in a knee brace, dragging welding machines and oxygen tanks and acetylene bottles up and down these flights of stairs with crutches by myself. And the contractor showed up on the job, said, dude, I can't believe you're putting yourself through this. Why are you not home? And I said, because the job has to get done. And if it doesn't, I'm not going to get paid. Do you know this man called me for every single job he had, anything. It didn't matter what it was. If a torch was required to be lit or a hole needed to be drilled in metal, he would call me and have me show up regardless of what it was because he knew I would be there and I would kick ass for him, right? And, you know, when you have your own business and you have to stand on your own 2 feet, you will do shit like that. You will put yourself through hell. There's been many times I've did things I didn't want to do to keep things going. And there's a lot of times where you will eat your words and you will eat money for reasons you never thought you would. But when you're solely on your own and you don't get any help, you got to do what you got to do.
Couldn't say it better myself, my friend, because that's the reality of being an entrepreneur. And that's fucking incredible. So we've been well over an hour and a half at this point. So that was a great place to segue into. Please tell me all about how do we find you? Again, please make sure you let me know what Prep Stock is all about. Just spend your time and tell us all about who you are, how to find you, how to give you money, all that stuff.
Okay. So it's Doomsday Podcast, ITS Doomsday Podcast. Guys, we're available on every podcast platform. We are on YouTube. We just got over here. I don't think we're going to be doing much here because they keep taking down our shows, but Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple, we're everywhere online. You can find the show everywhere. As far as our live shows go, live shows on Podbean every Monday night, we're there. We do take call-ins. We do a show that's an hour and a half over there. We do take call-ins the last half hour, last 15 minutes of the show. So if you come into the show, you can call in. There's no minimum followership, anything like that. You come in, participate in the chat, just like you have the chat going here on YouTube. If you do call in, I ask if you have a headset, because if not, we get a wicked echo. As far as donating money and stuff, we take gifts here and there on our Clapper and stuff like that. In the Podbean, we don't really push for too many donations, but the one thing I do want to push for the donations for is for our crowdfunding for Prep Stock. If you guys want to attend Prep Stock, you guys can go to www.prepstock.ticketleap.com and you can get
www.prepstock.ticketleap.com.
Yep.
Ticketleap.com. There you go, guys. That's in the live stream. So if anybody's rewatching this afterwards, I will put the link in the audio too, the audio description afterwards. So
right on. And then I'm just going to go ahead and make sure I pull up the right site here, just so I don't give you guys the bad information, because I'm definitely trying to get this crowdfunding thing going. So you guys, if you're so inclined and want to donate to help us get this compound / bunker / everybody thinks we're forming a cult, man. It's horrible.
Whatever. Don't worry about it. Fuck them.
So guys, if you want to help support the property we're trying to get for Prep Stock, you're going to go to freefunder.com. That's FREE funder.com. You're going to go to Discover and type in Home for Prep Stock. And we're going to pop up in there, and you guys can actually donate. And for those of you that donate a big enough amount, you're going to get a lifetime ticket to Prep Stock, which is super cool. If you donate a big enough amount, you get lifetime access to the property during any regular seasonal hours when this place is operational. And if you donate a big enough amount, you'll actually get 5 to 10% of profits, net profits, for the first 5 years that this facility will be open. So that is there if anybody wants to go and check that out. Greatly appreciate it. Now, what Prep Stock is. Prep Stock is a community-based prepper, survivalist, homesteader gathering where everybody gets to come together, share information, learn some new skills. We have some speakers. This is not a prepper camp. This is not a self-reliance expo where this is all about making money off vendors. We limit the amount of vendors that are going to be there. There might be a couple. There is no big vendor alley. There is no big everybody trying to sell you stuff. We want this to be something that people are not pressured into buying stuff. I don't want somebody to listen to a speaker for an hour and then at the end of that hour, buy my book or buy my product or buy what I have to offer. I don't want that. I want speakers that are bringing something to the table, that are here to help people. I want things to be more hands-on where people are actually learning and they're able to gain that knowledge, even if it's something as simple as this is how to properly make a fire. This is how to properly use steel and flint, or this is how to properly sharpen a knife. That's what I'm gearing toward. I don't want to be talked at for an hour and then you tell me, buy your product. I don't want that. I don't think anybody does.
That's awesome. I love it. I can't wait. So I pulled up the Free Funder link and I threw it in the description too. So
thank you. Appreciate that
for you. No worries. And so I got to ask you something. One more thing. You might not. Rachel wants to know if you're on Fountain.fm yet. And if you're not, it's podcasting 2.0. It's a new platform where you can get tipped in. I might have talked to you about this at Prepper Camp now that I think about it. But anyway, you can get tipped in sats, which is Bitcoin. So are you a Bitcoin guy? Not that we need to go down that rabbit hole yet, but
I got some Bitcoin. I really don't understand it all, so I don't mess with it.
That's okay. We'll talk. I'll fill you in on that eventually too. So, but that's cool. So, and so you said the way to follow you is just in any and all the podcatchers. It's Doomsday Podcast.
Right, and then we're on social media as well. I'm really active on Clapper right now. For those you don't know what Clapper is the adult version of TikTok, and it's uncensored. Right.
Okay.
So you don't have to worry about getting your live shut down. And Tim, I highly recommend you get over there, man. Honestly.
Well, now that you mention it, yeah. Is it clapper.com?
Clapper, it's an app. So clapper.com, or you can download the app in the iOS or Play Store. And basically, you don't have to have minimum followers to go live there, Tim. You could download it. You could download it right now and go live. Okay. There's no minimum followers. Their actual payouts on their gifting there is actually better than TikTok is, like the amount of percentages that they take. You could have monthly subscribers there. Everything that you're getting on TikTok, just not as user-friendly. I found myself doing a lot better. They are rapidly growing with 2 million active users right now. It's growing quick. So it's good to get in now. So we're there under It's Doomsday Podcast. And then if anybody wants to reach out to me directly, guys, email me, itsdoomsdaypodcast@gmail.com. ITS Doomsday Podcast at gmail.com. Best way to get a hold of me.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jester.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on.
I'd love to have you back someday if you're up for it. So we'll, yeah.
Yeah, dude. Tim, let me know when. Just send me an email. So I almost forgot about this. Tim scheduled this out months in advance.
I need to be a little better at reaching out about Wednesday before the show, because I just book everything. And then as the guests come up, I work through them. Right. And I'm like, I know I need to stop just reaching out the morning of, because I know people are supposed to know, but I know how life works. You know what I mean? So.
Right. No, I get it. And thank God for Google Calendar, man, because that's like one thing I knew this was coming because it was on the calendar. And then about an hour before we started, my phone's going, be-doo, be-doo, Toolman Tim, be-doo.
That's awesome. No, thanks for coming on, man. I live to get different communities brought together. That is the thing that gets me up in the morning and keeps me up at night. So thanks for coming in. Thanks for all of your people who dropped by to say hello. I love it. There's no better way. So thanks again, man. And if you're up for it, I'll have you back in a heartbeat.
Yeah, let me know when, man. I'm down. I'll be back.
Perfect. If you want to hang for 1 second, I'll close the show up and I'll be back.
Perfect.
Well, guys, where do we go from there? If you're not inspired, if you weren't entertained, are you not entertained? That was absolutely incredible. Thanks, Jester, for coming on. Make sure you show the love, the workshop love, and go by Add It's Doomsday in wherever you happen to go for the podcatcher, guys. Make sure you do it, because Jester's a switched on kind of dude, guys. I appreciate him. We'll have him back. He's a friend of the community. And what more can I say? Support Prep Stock. If you can, go by the funding website and help him out there too. And guys, that's it for me this evening. We got Chuck Peoples from Appalachian Medical coming on tomorrow night. Awesome guy. Look forward to that. Same bat time, same bat channel. And as always, stay happy, stay healthy, and have a great week.